I still remember the weight of coarse hands pressing me down, holding me in place while I drifted in and out of consciousness. Voices surrounded me. Edward's smug laugh, the low whispers of two other men, and the unbearable silence of my husband sitting just a few feet away. My dress was pulled, my body shifted and touched, as though I'd stopped being human. Through heavy eyelids, I caught glimpses of them, shadows pressing into me lips, dragging across my skin, fingers gripping so tightly that tears streamed silently down my cheeks. And worst of all, my husband didn't move. He didn't even try. He sat there watching. Before we dive deeper into today's story, I want to pause and ask you to subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell. Here we share stories that are raw, emotional, and often difficult to hear, but they are always real and eye-opening. By subscribing, you won't miss these confessions, and you'll help us continue sharing powerful stories like this one. Now let me tell you mine. My name is Emily, and I've been married to my husband Michael for 7 years. I believed we were building a life together, a partnership grounded in love and loyalty. But one night shattered everything I thought I knew about my marriage. One night revealed a side of him I never imagined existed, and it changed me forever. It began with Michael's job. He had been chasing a promotion for months, desperate to climb higher in his company. His boss was Edward, a man in his mid-50s, wealthy, arrogant, the kind who always seemed to get exactly what he wanted. Every night, Michael came home talking about how much he needed this promotion, how it would pay off our debts, maybe even give us the chance to buy a house. I supported him as any wife would. I thought his success was our success, but I never realized how far he was willing to go. One Friday evening, Michael told me we were invited to a private celebration at Edward's residence. Just a few executives, he said. It's a great chance to network to make the right impression. He asked me to dress elegantly, that having me by his side would make him look grounded and respectable. I remember slipping into my black dress, fixing my hair, thinking I was only going to support him. I had no idea I was walking straight into a nightmare. The house was dazzling, like something pulled out of a film, towering chandeliers, polished marble floors, expensive bottles of wine lined neatly on the counter. Edward greeted us with a practiced smile, the kind that never reached his eyes. And then I noticed something. It wasn't the few executives Michael had promised. There were only 3 other men there, all older than Michael, dressed in sharp suits, radiating the confidence of wealth and power. The way their eyes moved over me as soon as I entered made my stomach twist. Edward shook my hand, holding it just a second too long, as he welcomed us inside. Michael smiled nervously beside me, eager to please. The men made small remarks praising Michael for being lucky to have me by his side. I laughed politely, though something in their tone made my skin crawl. We eventually sat at a long dining table, served dishes I couldn't even name. The conversation was loud, full of business talk that drifted over my head. And then came the wine. Glass after glass, poured before I had even finished the last. That first dinner felt normal enough. I tried to relax, to play the role of the supportive wife. But the wine never stopped coming, and Michael kept nudging me to loosen up to enjoy myself. I trusted him, so I didn't think twice. I didn't notice how quickly the room began to blur, how heavy my eyelids grew. That's when everything shifted. What followed is hazy, like jagged pieces of broken glass, sharp cutting whenever I tried to put them together. I remember my body sinking into the sofa, unbearably heavy. But my mind screamed at me to wake up, to resist, to say no. I heard muffled voices, laughter whispers I couldn't fully grasp, and then touches. A hand brushing my arm, fingers sweeping my hair away from my face. At first it seemed small, my wrist being lifted a finger, sliding across my skin, the strap of my dress being tugged lower. But then it grew harsher. A hand pressed into my thigh. Another slipped beneath the hem of my dress. I wanted to push them away, to close my legs, to scream. But my body betrayed me, limp and unresponsive. Forcing my eyes open just a sliver, I saw Edward's face, close to mine, that smug grin, as if he had just claimed a victory. His chest pressed against me, suffocating the air from my lungs. His hands roamed without hesitation, his body crushing mine, into the sofa. Behind him the others circled, grabbing at me, treating me as though I was some prize passed around. My arms were pinned, my legs forced apart. Every inch of me felt violated. And then I saw Michael, my husband. He sat in the armchair across from me, a glass in hand, his face pale, but set like he had already accepted this as the price he was willing to pay. I tried to call his name, but only a faint whisper came out. My throat burned, my tongue felt heavy. I reached toward him with trembling fingers, silently begging him to save me. But he only looked away. The men didn't see me as human anymore. They pressed harder, rougher, shifting me like an object. Lips burned against my neck, hands gripped my hips. My body was moved and repositioned while I cried silently. Through blurred eyes, I caught Michael again. He was watching as Edward leaned over me, watching as the others pinned me down. His jaw clenched, his knuckles white around the glass, but he didn't move. He didn't stop them. Time became meaningless, just fragments of voices, shadows, crushing weight. And then it ended. I was covered with a blanket. Edward's voice said to Michael, "Now we know you're serious. You'll get what you asked for." Michael leaned over me, whispering, "It's okay, baby, just rest." But it wasn't okay. It would never be okay. The next clear memory I have is the car ride home. My head rested against the window as city lights blurred into streaks. My body ached, foreign broken. Michael's hands clutched the steering wheel, his eyes locked on the road. He said nothing, as though speaking would make everything undeniable. I wanted to scream, to demand why, to ask how he could sit there while I was destroyed. But only shallow breaths, escaped sobs caught in my throat. The silence was louder than any argument we had ever had. At home, I staggered inside, leaning against the wall to steady myself. I turned to him, waiting for words, anything. An apology, a denial, even a lie. But he only avoided my eyes. "Michael." My voice cracked. "How could you?" Finally, he looked at me. What I saw wasn't guilt or shame, it was desperation. "I did it for us," he whispered. "You don't understand. This promotion changes everything." Tears burned my cheeks. "You let them treat me like I was nothing, like I was for sale. And you sat there. You watched." He reached toward me, but I pulled back. His touch scorched. I had no choice. He stammered. "Edward made it clear, if I didn't prove my loyalty, if I didn't give him what he wanted, I'd never move up. Everything I've worked for would have been wasted." I stared at the man who once vowed to protect me. He had turned me into a bargaining chip. That night, I slept in the guest room, curled on the edge of the bed, sobbing quietly, while the memories replayed like a loop. Edward's smirk, the men's hands, Michael's stillness. Days bled into weeks. Michael got the promotion, just as Edward promised. He came home triumphant, expecting me to celebrate. But I couldn't even look at him. Every glance pulled me back to that night. I stopped eating. I stopped smiling. I stopped being myself. Something inside me had been broken, something I knew I could never get back. Weeks turned into months, and still I couldn't escape. Mornings felt like drowning my chest, heavy with the memory of what had been done to me and what my husband allowed. Even small things triggered me, the scent of cologne, the clink of glasses, the faint brush of a hand. Michael acted as though life had returned to normal. He threw himself into his new role, coming home later, proud, self-satisfied. He didn't see that I had turned into a ghost in our home. Or maybe he did, and chose not to care. I tried to forgive him. I told myself, maybe couples survive worse. But every time I looked at him, I saw him in that chair, still watching, choosing ambition over me. One evening, as we sat in silence over dinner, I broke. "Do you even realize what you've done to me?" I asked. He frowned. "What are you talking about?" That night, my voice trembled. "You watched them touch me. You watched them crush me like I was nothing. And you didn't move." His face hardened. "I told you I did it for us. One night, one sacrifice. And look where we are now, secure, comfortable." I laughed bitterly, through tears. "The life we wanted, Michael. I don't even know who you are anymore. You didn't just betray me. You sold me. You let them break me and pretended it was for us. But it was for you, for your pride." He slammed his hand on the table. "You think this was easy for me? You think I wanted that I did what I had to? That's how the world works." "No," I whispered. "That's how cowards work." The silence that followed was suffocating. He reached for my hand. "Please don't throw us away. We've built so much." I pulled away. "You already threw us away. The moment you chose your promotion over me, you ended this marriage." That night, I packed a bag. He begged, promised it would never happen again, swore he loved me. But love doesn't look like that. Love doesn't watch while you're destroyed. Love doesn't sell your body to feed its ambition. Walking out of that house was the hardest thing I've ever done. My legs shook with every step, but I knew if I stayed, I would lose myself completely. Months have passed since. I go to therapy now. Some days I almost feel normal. Other days I wake drenched in sweat. Edward's laugh, echoing in my mind, Michael's lifeless stare, haunting me. But at least I'm free. You might wonder why I never went to the police. The truth, I was terrified. Edward wasn't just one man, he was powerful, wealthy, surrounded by others like him. And worst of all, my own husband had been complicit. How could I stand against them, when even the man who vowed to protect me was part of it? At the time, all I could do was survive with what dignity I had left. Speaking out would have meant being dragged through the mud, doubted, humiliated. Maybe one day I'll find the strength. But back then, survival was all I had. As for Michael, yes, I filed for divorce. The papers are nearly final. He fought it at first, begged, pleaded, but some betrayals are too deep to forgive. Some wounds never close. I've learned that betrayal doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it comes from the one you trust most. And sometimes the scars that cut the deepest are invisible, hidden inside the way you see love, trust, and yourself forever. That's why I share this story, not for pity, not for attention, but as a warning. If anyone ever asks you to sacrifice your dignity, your body, your soul for their dreams, don't. No job, no promotion, no money in the world is worth that price. If you've listened all the way to the end, thank you. Stories like mine aren't easy to tell, but maybe they'll help someone else recognize the truth in their own life. And if you found this story meaningful, please subscribe, click the notification bell, and share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Your support means more than you know, and it helps us keep bringing you more true stories just like this one.